Hello, hello, crafty friends. This is Tonya Meyer. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Crafty Enchantments. Today I am playing with this gorgeous stencil set from the Ton Stamps, and this is called the Blended Pennies Large Stencil. This is one of those it creates 4 cards, 4 A2 size cards. And this stencil set is it has 6 layering stencils, and the actual stencil size is 8.75 or 8 3/4 by 12 inches. So you'll use like an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and then use this as your blending stencil for that 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and in the end result it creates 4 A2 size panels. I need to mention there is also a coordinating die that goes along with this set that will cut out the flowers individually. So it's always an option to do that. If you can afford it, it's a great option to have, to be able to cut the flowers out, and then that allows you to be able to create, even bigger cards if you want to do slimline cards, or if you wanted to create, I think they're called A7 cards, which are 5.5 by 7. You could certainly do that if you had the stencil and the die set together. The stencil alone just basically will allow you to make A2 size cards, unless you wanted to fussy cut those flowers out, which you certainly could do that as well. So I am just going to create some cards with this. I started out by blending on some, this is peachy ink from Simon Says Stamp. This is some of the positively saturated ink. And I had a vision in mind for these cards when I started this, and it didn't quite work out the way I planned it. And you'll see that here in my card. So I blended on the peachy first, and then I went in with some cantaloupe, which is a little bit darker shade. These are kind of orangey peach colors. And so I'm just layering on this second layer. And I do have to mention that this stencil, when you get to layer 4, the quad that's in the upper left-hand corner actually has the flower centers. And I made the mistake when I did this the first time around, and I blended the flower centers right onto my card panel, not realizing what they were. So obviously I had to start over again. So I'll mention that when we come to it. But I'm just adding in the more of a detail layer here with this cantaloupe color from Simon Says Stamp, Positively Saturated Ink. I really do like the Positively Saturated inks. I think they're nice to blend with. I don't know that they're necessarily easier to blend with than, say, the Distress inks or Distress Oxide inks, but they certainly give you a really good color saturation if that's what you're looking for. And they have some beautiful colors in their line, and I think they have a hard time keeping them in stock because all the newer colors seem to be sold out right now. But I will have all the colors linked in my product description below the video here, so if you want to check those out, you certainly can. So here I am just adding in my third layer, and for this layer I used Guava, again another positively saturated ink. And this is a really nice kind of a, oh, I don't know what color. It's not really pink. It's kind of a combination, like a salmon color, sort of. I mean, it has pink properties to it, but I thought it would go well with the peachy and the cantaloupe, and it does. You'll see what happens here. My vision kind of went awry a little bit with this card set, so I had to reblend some of it. I'm just adding that guava ink in. I actually really like this color, and it was interesting. I didn't, when I first started buying these inks, I didn't buy them in the sets, and I kind of wish I had, because I don't have, in some of the colors, I don't have the full trio. They have like 3 complementary colors, and in some of the sets, I don't have the trio of colors, so I don't have a full complementary set of colors, so I kind of have to fill in the gaps with some other inks that I have. I just love the stencil set, and the detail in these pennies is just gorgeous. When I saw it the first time, I was like, first of all, layering stencils is my jam. I have determined this. I love to do this. It's so much fun, and it's so easy to create 4 cards, super easy. And I know that this is something that the Ton has done in the past. There's a lot of other companies that are doing this as well. So there you can kind of see my card with the three blended colors so far. And I'm going to go back in with just a little bit of watermelon. Lining that back up. Oh, nope, sorry. I stuck the watermelon ink on that 4th quadrant because that's where the centers of the flowers are, so it would remind me not to blend over those. So here I am using Iris, which is another positively saturated ink, also from Simon Says Stamp. And this is where my project goes awry. I had a vision in my head of what I wanted this to look like, and I forged ahead with this and ultimately did not like the color. So I have to go back and do some color correction here, and you'll see how I do that in a little bit. It is very pretty. It just was not the color scheme I was kind of looking for. I think the cantaloupe and the peachy were a little too much on the orange side, even though they are sort of triadic colors, I guess, in the color wheel. I didn't like the way they looked. So in order to fix that, I thought, I'll go in and I'll add in the flower centers, which I used Sunbeam for, another positively saturated ink. And I thought that that would help if I added in the yellow centers, that it would maybe pull the colors together. And I decided I still didn't like it. I actually set everything aside, slept on it overnight. I considered pitching the whole project and ultimately decided not to do that. I came back in the next day, went back to my first layer of the stencil, which is the biggest layer, so it puts on your base color. And I went back in with some Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide ink. And I'm going to add in a little bit more pink to make these colors sort of harmonize together a little bit better. And I actually do like the end result, so I'm glad that I didn't scrap the whole project as I had intended. So I guess it's a lesson in perseverance if you stick with it and just find a way to fix it. It's always a good option rather than having to start all over again. I really didn't want to waste the piece of paper because I thought the flowers looked really pretty. So I'm glad that I was able to fix it, basically. And I kind of like the way that the pink looks over the cantaloupe and the peachy color. It actually looks good. So, and then, so I just did this on all 4 of my stencils again, and you can see how it looks so much better with the colors. And still, the iris is a very dark color. That dark purple is very stark in comparison to the other colors. And I did go in a little bit with the Kitsch Flamingo here, and just without the stencil, on the purple flowers that have the purple, I went in and added a little bit of that pink in as well, to kind of tone down that a little bit and then fill in some of the white space. I think the white space is supposed to be for artistic effect. To me, it looked kind of weird. I don't know. So I went in and filled in some of those colors. I thought it looked okay. So I'm going to put on a little bit more music, a little bit of music here, and let you watch the rest of this, and then I'll come back when we're done. I am back. We are just finishing up the ink blending on these panels here, and for my flowers, or for my leaves, that is, I used all of the inks were Simon Says Stamp except for one. I used Simon Says Stamp, Seafoam, Surf, and Ocean for the leaves, and then I added in a touch of Concord and Ninth Sprout. That's just to give it a little bit of a green color, since the colors I used were mostly in the blue family. I think that is a nice pop of color in comparison to my flowers. So, and you can see that with the blended on Kitsch Flamingo, and I blended on also a bit of picked raspberry, that really pulled the colors together pretty well. I had a couple areas on the white panels where I had gotten my finger in the ink, so I can't really use the panels as is. I am going to use the coordinating dies that come with these to cut the flowers out, and then I'll put them on my card from there. So there are 4 dies in this set, one for each flower. The only one I did not cut out was the one that's the full background of pennies up each side, the left and right side of the panel. I just didn't want to cut that one out. So all the others, I did use the dies and cut those out, and they cut out very well. I love the way it cuts around the leaves. And so here again, you could use these die cut pieces to create slimline cards or larger cards, tags, whatever you wanted to do. So it's nice to have the coordinating dies that go along with that. And they cut really well. I do use a magnetic mat with my Spellbinders machine, and that just helps keep my die in place when I'm running it through my die cut machine. And then the pieces also get stuck in it a little bit too. So, but I love how it cuts these out. They were a little bit off, so I just trimmed them up to make them work out with my A2 size cards. It wasn't too bad. I just trimmed the edges off. I had a little bit of white space where I didn't get my stencil panel lined up exactly. Not a big deal. Easy to fix. Getting all of these cut out, and then that last one that's sitting there on the left is the only one that I didn't cut out. There's a die that cuts up the center of that, so it basically cuts it into 2 pieces. So I have each of my die cuts here, and I had foiled a bunch of sentiments previously, and I have them sitting in a little bowl on my desk, and I was going through those trying to see if I could use any of them. I ultimately decided I didn't like the foil for some of those, so I ended up refoiling, and that's what these are here, is they're refoiled. And then I added in these sentiments are from Pinkfresh Studio. The block lettering is perfect. It's from the Perfect Sentiments hot foil plate. There's a hot foil plate, a die, a stamp. So you can pretty much do it all and do that. And then the other is from the Modern Script sentiment set, which is also from Pinkfresh Studio. There is a same thing. It's a die, a stamp, a hot foil plate, and a coordinating die. Did I get that right? Stamp, die, hot foil plate. I'm missing something. Anyway, I will have everything linked below. With the modern, the scripty sentiments, I layered those up. I cut a few extra blanks and just layered those to give those sentiments a little bit of stability behind them. I couldn't really cut out dimensional foam for those. So here I have cut a panel that's got a little piece of stitched orange cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I have also, you really can't tell, but on this panel I use the Spellbinders, I think it's called Loops or Swirls embossing folder, and I did emboss that white cardstock behind the flower there. And then I also used some butterflies that I had cut previously and foiled, also from Pinkfresh Studios. These are the small butterflies. And here is my second card. On this one I used the Spellbinders Tufted embossing folder for my background. I'm just popping my florals on top of that with some dimensional foam here. And I'm going to add in the mini thanks sentiment from the modern script sentiment from Pinkfresh Studio. I think that's really pretty. I love the way that tufted embossing folder looks. It was the first time I had gotten to use it, and I think it's going to be one of my favorites. I really like the way it looks. And then for this one, which is the solid panel that I didn't die cut, I cut a piece of vellum out that is, I believe this is 3 3/8 by 4 1/4, 4 inches. And what I did was I ran that through my Xyron sticker maker and with a piece of vellum, and I just added a sticky background to that. And I'm going to place it in the center of my card panel here. Once I get it straight. And this will kind of mute those flowers a little bit. Not much, but I'm going to add this. This is Tonic Studios iridescent paper. I think this is called Marina Mist. And I cut this little rectangle from the Ellen Hudson, it's called the Essential Rectangles. What it does is it cuts out a rectangle, basically frame, and then the center of that frame. And so I'm going to just place that there. Just gives it a little bit of a different look for the front of it. Lining it up. And the liquid glue gives me a chance to get things moved around and get them straight. And I'm adding some dimensional foam to the back of that. And then I'm going to pop my sentiment on it. And the sentiment for this one is also from the Modern Script sentiment from Pinkfresh Studios. And it says, "You're the best." I have that sitting underneath my block there because I glued together my layers. And I put that right in the center and add a butterfly from the Pinkfresh Studios small butterfly set. It was funny, I've had these butterflies have been sitting on my desk for probably, I don't know, I don't even remember when that set came out. It was last year, maybe last year. So those butterflies have been sitting in the little bowl on my desk since then, because I foiled them as soon as I got it. And I just kind of foiled some extras, and I've been keeping them on hand, and they happen to work out really well for these cards. So for this card, I didn't do any embossed background. I just did a plain white card base, and I'm just gluing my flowers directly to that. I didn't even add any dimension with these. Keeping it simple. And then I'm going to add the Just a Note with a little bit of dimensional foam behind it. With those, they were a little bit easier to add dimensional foam to because they're not quite as delicate. So it worked out well. And then adding a butterfly to this. And I will go in here in a minute with some additional embellishments. I have some clear drops here that I'm going to add to this card. And then I have some pearls that I'm adding to a couple of the others and some gemstones. Just some little finishing touches to wrap up these cards. I think they turned out well. And they came together once I got my colors situated. They came together really quickly. I mean, the whole process of blending and all of that doesn't really take that long. It's just figuring out what colors you want to do beforehand and not having to redo layers of them. So once I had that figured out, it all came together really quickly. And the actual assembly was easy. They were die cut. I had all the sentiments already foiled, little butterflies already foiled, so super easy cards to put together. And this would make a great, you could make a kit for somebody. They could assemble themselves, or you could give these as gifts for the holidays. Such an awesome thing. These stencils where they create 4 cards at once makes your life so easy to create cards and create cards quickly, or create cards to give as gifts. Lots of different things that you can do with them, so I highly recommend them. And I know I started to say that I know not only does the Ton have some, I know Tailored Expressions has a lot. I've done a video with one of theirs from Christmas time where they have same thing, stencils that create 4 cards at once. So lots of different options. If you're not into coloring, watercoloring, Copic markers, any of that, this is a great alternative and easy to make quick cards. Those are my multicolored gems. And there is a look at my cards individually. You can get a quick peek at how they turned out. I love the foil accents. I think it's so pretty. And they just turned out so good. I'm so excited. And I'm excited to be able to give these away. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's cards. Please click like and give me a thumbs up and subscribe for all of my content. Thank you so much for stopping by.